My name's Heather Ogle. I'm the program manager for our coaching programs here at Continuing and Professional Education for UC Davis. And I'm going to be talking to you today about our program, and this will be recorded. So don't worry about scribbling stuff down really fast. You'll automatically get a recording of this session in 24 hours, so you can pause and take a look at things if you need to. But I'll go ahead and start. Okay, good. Looks like we are already recording. Awesome. So let's go ahead and move forward. So we're here today to talk about our fall cohort that will be starting on September 20th. And it's a 3-month program, so you'll be all done and finished before the November holidays and time for food. This is held online, but it is live. So you're going to be having sessions with your cohort face-to-face over Zoom and with your instructor, Lori Kozart, who we'll meet in just a moment. So it's a highly interactive program that you're really going to get to know your cohort mates and have that close networking experience. And so you can see a little summary there on the screen of everything I just mentioned. And so we can see our program contacts. There's myself, pre-pandemic with the short hair, and my contact info, so feel free to reach out anytime. And then we also have the director of this program and your instructor, Lori Kozart, who has a myriad of experience in so many things that she will share with us in just a second. And you're really lucky to get to spend this one-on-one time with such an experienced coach and CEO. She's an MCC. For those of you who are in the coaching realm, you'll recognize that's a master certified coach. And for those of you who aren't in the coaching realm and may just be here because you want the skills for management and leadership in your business world, just know that you're in good hands, and you can learn a lot to work with your people in your department through this program. So before we keep going, we're just going to launch a quick poll, and we'd just like to learn what you're expecting from today's session and what you might like to do with team coaching skills, just so that we can make sure to tailor the session again to your guys' needs as we go through. So we'll just do that real quickly. And things like, are you within a 30-mile radius of Sacramento? Are you local? Are you coming to us from outside of California? And things like that. That's all helpful information to let us know what we need to talk about throughout the session. And so we'll just give it a second here. Looks like we've got some folks who are just curious about the new program. Someone who said that it was suggested and they should look into it. And we've got a lot of California folks. We do get a lot of international folks as well in our online coaching programs, which is really fun. But it looks like we are locals today. And then we have folks who this would be their first course here with CPE, which is awesome. Welcome. And then we have a couple folks who have taken our other coaching program, which certifies you in coaching and gets you set up to apply for an ICF certification if you want, and if you're interested in that realm of things. So perfect. Thank you for sharing that. So we'll keep that in mind. And now, Lori, I'd love it if you would take a moment to introduce yourself and share some of the awesome stuff that you've done with us.
Sure. Thank you, Heather. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm super happy to be here. I'm Lori Kozart. As Heather said, I'm a master certified coach. I also have an MBA in leadership and management, and I'm a master certified NLP coach. For those of you who don't know what NLP means, that's neuro-linguistics programming. I've been working with UC Davis for over a decade inside their professional work and life program. And as I saw sort of the movement in the coaching world, really thought that the team coaching program would be the next evolution of where we wanted to head, because there's so much need for team coaches, especially now. The pandemic has even heightened that need for really experienced coaches to step in to work with teams in building their performance. And this is such a special program. It gives you all the tools that you need to be able to do that. And I know I'm getting off track now, Heather, but it's hard to talk about myself when I'm so excited about the program. So I'm just going to stop there. And also say that I have been the president of the ICF in Sacramento, as well as a member of the International Coaching Federation for over a decade. I also mentor master certified coach as well as PCC coaches, and I'm a coach supervisor. So that's just a little bit of a background around me, in addition to my regular 9 to 5 business, which is Brain Squared Solutions, which is really an organizational development organization that is designed to help organizations really expand their leadership by infusing neuroscience into the way they work together. And so how we approach that is always through a systemic lens. And that's really where the team coaching piece comes in. We look at everything from a systems process and how do we really make sure that what the team is working and performing within the system that they're required to perform within. So again, I'll pause there. It's nice to see everyone.
That's perfect. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that the team experience runs through as a thread through a lot of your profession and your expertise. So you just can't help but start talking about it, which is perfect, because we're going to go, this is just a short synopsis of the plan today. We're going to talk about team coaching. What exactly do we mean when we say team coaching? A little bit about the program. What does it look like to take the program? And then what would you do to apply? So Lori just got us started there a little bit on what do we mean when we say team coaching. Lori, would you like to expand on that?
Sure. You know, the ICF defines coaching, and I know I'm just reading this, but when we look at personal coaching, right, or life coaching or professional coaching, it's really partnering with clients in thought-provoking creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. When we think about team coaching, we're again using that context as client, but what we mean by that is the team. The team as a single entity is the client. And it is comprised of multiple stakeholders. But I think as we move into team coaching, we're not just looking at self, because we are looking at self, but there are typically 5 elements that we look at in the team coaching context: self, role, team, organization, and community. And how do we develop teams to think as a single entity to be able to serve each one of those roles? And I think that is where systemic team coaching really has a sweet spot. And it really elevates a team's thinking, and it elevates their performance.
Thank you for that. Let's keep going. So here we just have a couple of key phrases and things that people might recognize. Maybe you've heard emotional intelligence before, or adaptability and things like this. These are all things that the team is going to work towards, and the team coach, as you learn to work and change. Maybe you're already coaching an individual, but you're going to learn to work with the teams and add that to your professional basket of skills. You're going to adapt yourself to do that. And Lori, would you like to talk a little bit about how it's slightly different working as a team coach versus maybe if you're used to working as an individual coach?
Yeah, I think, the difference is really being able to manage the dynamics of the team, how the team works within the organization or the system that they're in, and understanding sort of the human capacity to change those dynamics. We're working with not just performance, and this is all standard stuff that we really understand as coaches, right? We're working with performance, we're working with communication, but we're also looking at how do they serve the role and how do they serve the team. And in that, we do have to take a look at what is the team dynamic around emotional intelligence and what is the team dynamic around recovery. Because with performance, there needs to be recovery time, and how are they recovering themselves and how are they recovering as a team? Same goes for conflict management. There's a time when we're managing the conflict, and then there's a time when we're slowing down, processing, looking at the learning that we've received from each one of these interactions and applying that into the recovery time so that we are taking away the learning from each one of these engagements or each one of these interactions that the team can learn from.
Thank you. So here we are. Sometimes it's easier to describe something by describing what it's not. And we do that in the professional coaching program. We say it's not therapy, it's not mentoring. So in this case, we have a grid here talking about things that team coaching are similar to team coaching, may seem like the same thing, but aren't quite exactly the same thing. Lori, would you mind walking us through this a little bit?
Sure. It isn't any of these things, and it is all of these things. So you'll notice that as you look on the far end to the right, you'll see that team coaching typically is longer terms. And what this really does is it gives the consultant or the coach a wider breadth and opportunity to be able to work with the team, and a wider opportunity to be able to make a difference. Because typically a team coaching engagement is around 18 months, depending on what their goals are. But in that 18 months, we're going to work backwards through all of the things towards towards the left. It's going to be some team facilitation. It's going to sometimes be team mentoring. There may be some consulting that goes on. There may be some training that goes on. And of course, there's going to be team building as well. But it's a well thought out, organized plan based on where the team is headed, how it fits into the system, and what kind of performance they're trying to achieve. And so we're really looking at all of these things in a nice, beautiful blend. I think once again, the biggest difference between team coaching and everything else is the ownership belongs to the team. They are an integral part of deciding what their goals are, how they want to move forward, what each one of those pieces to the engagement will look like. And there is a responsibility to each other, not to the team coach, to make sure that they're following through on their commitments.
Thank you.
We did get a question.
Yeah, great.
And they asked, does this include how to assess team health, more of an OD approach? Similarly, is there a grounding, is fundamentals of team dynamics?
So probably organizational development.
There was something at the end right there, Beatrice, about organizational development that I missed, and I think I need that for context.
So how to assess team health? So would you cover that in team coaching?
There are a variety, depending on what we're talking about around team health, there are a variety of assessments that we will use to assess team dynamics. And in that, then the second part of it was what, Beatrice?
The second part is there a grounding fundamentals of team dynamics?
Yes, this is really digging into what are the dynamics of the team. That's one of the fundamental pieces of this program, is really taking a look at team dynamics. Now, there are a lot of assessments that we use, even 360 assessments that we can use to look at the team. One of the assessments that we use is team driven, and it's called a team readiness assessment. So once the team has decided where they would like their performance to be, then we go backwards and see what's missing through the team readiness assessment.
Thank you. Great questions. Feel free to keep those coming. If you need clarification on anything, absolutely bring them out. Having a discussion is always more fun than just straight up presenting. All right. And so, our next slide just is to remind us and key in. So what can a team expect if they go through team coaching? Why bother with the systemic team coaching? What's our end goal?
You know, the real benefits to the team are improved inclusion, improved psychological safety, really being able to have the conversations that need to be had in order for the team to thrive and grow. And so it's creating, and I know the word trust is thrown around a lot in organizational development and business communication, but it's really building those layers of trust where we can say what needs to be said, and in a way that it's received the way it needs to be received, but where it feels simple, right? It's not about eliminating team conflict, because team conflict, it leads to innovation, it leads to all kinds of different things, but it's using and getting the team dynamic to a place where they can have conflict without hurting feelings or reducing psychological safety or making people feel disincluded. So it's really creating a team dynamic where we're all rowing in the same direction. That, of course, improves its ability to see the organization as a wider whole, what its role is in that wider organization, and how it can perform most optimally in that role.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to think about, oh gosh, I just lost my words, but the empowerment that comes to the individual as well, ultimately, when you're in a functioning team, and the satisfaction for their own work and their job. So yeah, it does all come back to a better environment for everybody. All right, I saw, let's see, we had a couple of questions up in the chat. Beatrice, do you want to read us one of those?
Yes, so Laura, you were talking about, the team as a whole. So someone actually kind of asked a question similar to that. And they asked, what are some of the metrics or key performance indicator coaches use to measure effectiveness of a team?
That is a great question. And we use whatever the organization uses. So when we're working with teams inside organizations, it's very important from a team coaching perspective to use the KPIs that the organization is using now, or that the team would like to see them use. Very rarely do we bring in our own assessment around how well the team is performing. That is up for the organization, and that is up for the team to decide. And then how do we help facilitate the process for them to get where they need to be?
Thank you.
Thank you. Back into those fundamentals of the goals come from the person or the team, and the common thread in coaching. So next here, we're just going to go over a couple of the ideas that are shared while in the program. And Lori, would you like to speak on this, the 5 disciplines?
Yeah, some folks may have heard of this. This is actually was developed by Professor Peter Hawkins. And what he calls this is the 5 disciplines of highly effective teams. Now, some may think that this is, or associate this with some KPIs for high performing teams. And it could be, right? It could be parlayed into what the team's trying to accomplish. But it gives a really good roadmap for a team coach to think about what an engagement with a team looks like. And it all starts with commissioning, ensuring that we are all on the same page, contracting those agreements with the team, that we all have a clear purpose. And what is it that the team must deliver in order to meet their objectives? And then it sort of moves into clarifying that. And again, we're talking about, what does the team charter say? What's the primary purpose? What are some of the team KPIs that are going to come into play? What are their goals, objectives, and what are their real roles? Now, not just the roles on the team, but what is their role inside the system, right? What's the role inside the organization? Then we move into co-creating, where we think about all the interpersonal and team dynamics and what type of team culture is there. Then we move into, how do we engage not just the team, but how do we engage all of the critical stakeholders in, you'll see in the middle, in this core learning for the team, where we start to coordinate and consolidate. How does the team reflect upon what they've accomplished and where they need to be? How do they use failure, and I'm going to use quotes around failure, as a learning process instead of placing blame? And are they really integrating what they're learning through this team coaching process into their everyday work? You'll notice that some of it is task and some of it is process. You'll notice that some of it relates to inside the team and some of it relates to outside of the team. But again, we're placing the team in the whole system so they can get a better idea of how everything they do, the way they interact, the KPIs they perform, the goals and objectives that they meet, their performance impacts the rest of the organization and their peers and colleagues.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think it's a good point to bring up that because you're engaging them in this system-wide approach, it's a benefit to the system, which means that this kind of a service is easier to sell to a system or a large organization. And so, we'll go into a little bit about, what does this program do for you and why would you bother, getting team certified? But it comes down to, you can help a large organization and, you can, the charge for those services can be pretty good because you're working in such a large system.
That's
Or
such a
you can do it
great
for
point.
nonprofits and really impact the world. So
Right?
the runs the gamut.
Mhm.
So yeah, please.
That's okay. If it's all right, Heather, I'd just like to add one thing. One of the things that we touch on in team coaching is good stewardship. And I think one of the things that causes conflict in team dynamics is when a person leans into ownership. And I want to say this very carefully because I know we don't have enough time to really explain, but versus leans into stewardship. Now, when we're hired into a position, we are there to be good stewards of that position, of that role. Every role in an organization plays an integral part in how the organization performs. And if we're only interested in ownership versus looking at what the expectations are, looking at what was the role designed to do, we are missing something. And the cogs, right? Each role is a cog in the organization in order for it to perform at its highest level. If we're only interested in ourselves, those cogs become jammed. And this is when conflict starts to arise because we start to advocate for ourselves versus advocating for the role or advocating for the team. And that is sort of the team dynamics that we need to look at. Are they good stewards of the roles that they're in? Or is there a misalignment between what they think they're there to accomplish and how or what they are accomplishing?
Yeah, very good point. Thank you. So this is another concept that you touch on while in the program. And we'll cover this and then we'll go on to a little bit about what it looks like to take the classes and your day-to-day.
Yeah, this is just a quick concept around here's, we think it's so simple that work equals pay, when really there's so much that goes underneath all of those. And if we're not very clear, we talk a lot about agreements in team coaching. And the reason is because agreements is where everything can go awry. If we aren't very clear about expectations, our agreements on how we're going to work together, what's our, responsibility to the team when it comes to producing that performance or those KPIs, then we're going to get conflict. And oftentimes we make it way too simple. Here it is, here's the goal, here's what we need to do, versus really looking around, what does that mean? And making clear agreements. When we don't have clear agreements, we create psychological agreements. And those psychological agreements are what cause conflict. So clarity in communication, clarity in goal setting, clarity in agreements, and how we follow through on those agreements need to be made in order for the team to operate at its highest level.
Thank you. So in this example, they may say you get paid for work, but when you think about your pay, you're also thinking about the security that pay will equal and the recognition you're going to get for the work that you do. And promotions and growth, and whereas on the work side, they're thinking about how loyal are you, and are you doing all the hours in the day? And so you're not thinking about the same thing.
Right. So you see the work side has these psychological agreements that are underneath. This is what I expect, even though they may not be out there front and center. And on the pay side, I'm making a psychological agreement with myself that I will have security, that I will be safety and care, that I will get training and development, even though it might not have been communicated. And so the expectations get skewed and conflict starts to arise, or we start to feel used, right? And because we're not all both in alignment to what we had expectations around. So in team coaching, we want to bring all of the agreements front and center and make sure that we're all on the same page, not just with each other, but with the organization too. And here's why. Right? This is just a funny way to look at it. If anybody's familiar with the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper has an agreement for everything. He has a roommate agreement. He has a relationship agreement with his fiance. He has agreements everywhere because he understands where conflict starts to arise. And in those agreements, he even has what's going to happen if he has a boo-boo or an ouchie. What is the solution to that? And what's his responsibility and what's the other person's responsibility? So it may seem deep or convoluted, but it really can bring to the surface some of those conflicts and help resolve them before they get started.
Thanks, that's great. So we're going to talk a little bit about the program itself. And before we do that, we're going to launch a poll just asking about your familiarity with the ICF. It's a term we've been throwing around. And this program is taken by coaches, as well as I mentioned, managers, executives, people who are looking really just to upskill for managing a high functioning team. So you may or may not be familiar with the ICF, and that's fine. All right, let's see. It looks like we're about half, or well, 2/3, 1/3. We've got people who are already credentialed through the ICF, and then we have some people who this is sort of the first time they're hearing about it, and that's totally fine. So we'll give some context around that as we move forward. So the ICF stands for the International Coach Federation, and it's really the world recognized professional society for coaching. And it's the society that we align as UC Davis, we align our coaching programs with. And as part of that, they have core competencies and skill sets that they've defined as what's truly the core requirement for a skilled coach or team coach. And so we follow and along with those ICF core competencies, not only for a coach, but also they have competencies specific to team coaching. And so we're aligned with that as well. Sort of in preparation, if they ever come out with a credential for a team coach, we're trying to be ahead of the curve and be ready for that. And so I see a question pop up, does it lead to an ICF certification? When we first launched this, we were really hoping that there was going to be a team certification, but ICF kind of put that on the side burner, hoping that it still comes out. So right now what we're doing are continuing education units. So if you need to maintain a certification, then this is going to be helpful for that. And then there are also, they're coach specific and then just general continuing education. If you need professional development, we have those as well. And I can expand on that in a second. But that's what we mean when we say ICF. When we've said it before, it's just to mean that we're affiliated with them and we associate our core skills with the ones that they've defined as truly necessary for a skilled practitioner. So on this screen, you can see this is the schedule for our fall cohort, which, like we mentioned in the beginning, is going to start at the end of September. The sessions are Tuesdays and Saturdays. So we tried to split it up. We recognize you guys are working professionals. And so we've done Tuesday evenings, Pacific time. These are all Pacific time. And then some Saturdays. And the Saturdays will be full days with a break for lunch. And those are scattered out as you can see here. And you'll be spending some time, hearing from Lori on core concepts, but you're also going to be spending a lot of time in scenario work and doing practicing those skills in a controlled setting that Lori has developed this dysfunctional team that you will work with throughout the program. Additionally, this time we have a real life team. So we will be facilitating work with a team that really does need some help. And so you'll get to practice those skills on some breathing human beings as well. And so that's very exciting. And you can see that you'll be all finished up by the 19th with your final project. And you can qualify for those CEUs if you like, as well as a team badge. So team coaching badge, the badging is becoming very popular. It's something that you can post to your LinkedIn account or any other social platform really that you use to communicate professionally. And so what this does is it puts front and center to clients or hiring agencies that you have this skill. And if they click into it, they can see more about exactly what you did to earn this badge and earn this competency. So it is something that must be, you have to tick all the boxes in order to get one. And so that's one of the newest things that we have, which is really fun. I enjoy that. So then finally, we are going to come up to, so, okay, I'm interested. I think let's do this. Let's add this skill to my basket of options as a coach or just a professional developer. And so what do I do next? So you can see we'll have, let's see, we'll post in the chat our link. Thank you, Beatrice. So this will bring you to our team coaching site, and you can click on enroll now to access the application. And it's not a competency-based application. You don't have to have other coaching credentials. It's more just to get to know your goals with team coaching and see that you're going to be an active participant in the cohort. And it's totally free to look at those and apply. So no upfront cost or anything like that. No worries there. And then once you're accepted, then we can get you in. There are discounts available. So everybody here who's joined us live today is going to receive $100 off at the very least for just joining the session and being here with us today. So that'll come along with your recording in 24 hours. And then we also have discounts for UC Davis staff, as well as members of the ICF chapter and alumni of our coaching program and things like that. So please feel free to reach out and ask us what discounts might be out there that you could use so that we can save you a couple bucks. And that brings us to the end. We have time for questions if there are any lingering questions. And Lori, I'll open it up to you if you have any final comments for anybody as we wrap up today's session.
Sure, I'd love to have any questions that people are thinking about, but when I think about team coaching, there are so many applications for it. And so if you are in human services, HR positions, or if you're a consultant, or if you are coaching now inside organizations but want to be able to expand that, this is such a great way to be able to expand your skills, your repertoire. And by the way, when you are a good team coach, you'll also be an even better individual coach, because you'll start to look at the systemic dynamics that are affecting the performance of the individuals that you're coaching. So there's so many benefits to adding these skills into your toolkit.
Thank you so much, Lori. Okay, I don't see any extra questions coming in. Again, you'll get our contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions that occur to you. and we will be on the lookout for those applications. We hope you can join us this September. Everybody have a great rest of your evening or afternoon or wherever it is you may be located.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Heather.
everybody.
Thank Beatrice. Thank you, Beatrice. And everyone, thank you for being here. Just one more thing. Remember that team coaches can change the world because we are looking at the ripple effect of leadership. So everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, everybody.